a recent article up on VSiN.com right now that's discussing your model, the Jonathan Von model, as we've been calling it here.
John Von model.
Oh, you prefer John Von?
John Von model because my hope is that this thing is uber successful, and then much like KenPom.com, I can then back out JohnVon.com and then just put this bad boy up there. So
smooth, I really like it.
Branding, TM. Just throw that out there.
Obviously, we want people to go and read the article where you have a very detailed breakdown of kind of how you do things, what led you to go ahead and create this model, but just some of the big takeaways from the process that you've had here early on.
So this is, we'll put it this way. This is a learning thing. It's a journalistic endeavor, whatever you want to call it. The whole point is to learn the process of modeling. As I put in the article, since I started here at VSiN, when you listen to smart people talk and you hear them say, my number this or whatever, some of them do it like our old school Matt Humans, right? He's chewing on the pen, he's putting his numbers down, you're doing that kind of stuff. Other people are punching in an Excel file sheet of certain back work that they've done to spit out a number, and that's how they make their numbers. So just decided, you know what? It's fascinated me for a while. Let's just build one. Let's see what it's going to be like. And so that was the process. And in it, I do describe what exactly I'm doing is my model is built on regression testing, which is you take a dependent variable and you get a bunch of independent variables and you ask, how do these correlate to that dependent variable? And the dependent variable is home teams winning, or the margin of victory of teams at home. And the independent variables are all the different statistics that you're using. And I'm asking Excel to do all that work, not me. And then it spits this out, and then you insert into the equation, and boom, you can get some projected margin of victories for some of these teams. So a lot of it's spelled out. All of the statistics I'm using are in the article as well, so you can check that out and essentially walk you through how I'm doing it. And honestly, what I learned is, dude, if you've done this before, or if you're a modeler, if you will, it's hard. It's hard, and by no means, I would think, are you ever at a point where you're comfortable with it? You've always got to be tweaking and adjusting and changing. I think since I've shown it to you too, I think the last time I showed it to you, I think I had 3 statistics poured into it or something like that. I've got 8, technically 16, because I sort it by home and away. I've started to involve quarterback-centric statistics because they are the most important. So things like that. But what I've learned is it's really hard. It's never a finished product. And this is going to be really fascinating to kind of track as we move along throughout the NFL season.
Well, and I think it's cool that for you personally, as somebody who's created it, it's been a good learning experience for you, for anybody out there that wants to know how to do this kind of stuff. It's great that you're making that information available so that others can learn and create and do their own set of numbers. Because, how often, whether you're on this show or you're talking to somebody, you're at the sportsbook placing a bet, somebody uses that phrase all the time, like, I made my number this, the book has this. That's how it is. It's the way of the world. Before we get into some of the specific numbers you have for this week, you talked about how quarterback statistics are the most important. What are some of those ones that you have plugged in specifically for quarterbacks, and why is it so valuable?
Okay, so we did the quarterback statistics that I've used so far. I'm going to change some stuff around. Has been, let's see, what do we got? Quarterback passing grade from Pro Football Focus, turnover-worthy play rate from Pro Football Focus, and drop-back success rate, and that's from RBDSM. You can look that up online as well. Those are the 3 quarterback-centric statistics that I've used so far up to this point, and we'll add a little bit more. And I also say this too, and we'll get to it as part of the numbers here as well. What I've had a lot of trouble with, which we're going to expand on in next week's article, is it's 2 things. It's change at quarterback. The Jets, for example, when you see these projected lines, are, I still think, being projected as the team from last year. And the other are rookies. So, one of the examples, too, is Anthony Richardson. So a lot of people think that Anthony Richardson is going to be like Justin Fields. So I can plug in some Justin Fields numbers and essentially give the Colts Justin Fields to see what that would look like. But Mitch had a good point, Mitch Moss on Follow the Money, who we're actually, for anybody who doesn't know as well, we are going in together on a contest entry that we're going to use all of the best bets from the model on that contest entry every week. But Mitch was like, well, no, how about you use rookie year Jalen Hurts instead? Because Shane Steichen, head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, was his offensive coordinator. And so it's okay, that's a good idea. Let's try that. So those are little things that I'm trying to perfect. And how do I put Aaron Rodgers accurately in with the Jets when the Jets, remember, I'm still using team statistics as well. So drive success rate, adjusted line yards allowed, offensive expected points added, net expected points added. Those are all Jets team statistics. How do I put Aaron Rodgers into that mix too? So those are questions that I'm still asking. We'll have more on in the next week.
Awesome. Well, let's take a look at, I think that's cool, by the way, that you and Mitch are doing that contest entry where you're going by it and seeing what it is.
And I say this in the article too. I don't expect this. So I'm going to be very upfront. I don't expect this to be successful ATS wise. Like I don't expect to come out here right and get like 67% and start winning right away. I think I fully expect that I'm going to take some lumps. Now I do have some confidence in that. If you look at some of these projections, there are some of these lines that are right in line with where the market is right now. You know, the Washington Commanders, for example, the John Von model makes it 7.03 in favor of Washington. The market's at 7. The Baltimore Ravens makes it 10 flat. Well, guess what the market is right now? It's 10. So there's a lot of these numbers that are in line with where the market is. So I have some confidence in that I'm kind of heading down the right path.
The more I hear it, John Von model does have a nice ring to it.
It's a good name, right?
It is. It's pretty solid. For some of the games this weekend, where did you see, based on your numbers and based on your model, the games with the biggest edges or presumed edges?
So as of now, before I make some adjustments for next week, the biggest edges in order would be the Packers +2. John Von model projects actually a 3-point win for the Green Bay Packers. They're 2-point underdogs. The Bills -2, as we discussed, right? They view, the model does at least, the Jets as the Jets from last season for the most part. Jags -4. The Indianapolis, again, using a lot of statistics from last year, a lot of poor offensive statistics. I've got quite a few offensive numbers in this model right now, so the Colts are one of the lower rated teams.
Doesn't help now that Jonathan Taylor isn't going to be on the field as well.
So I haven't, that's another thing. Like, do I try to put something in that would account for Jonathan Taylor? I would say no, because he's not going to impact the point spread for the most part, but we'll see. That's part of the process. Chiefs -6.5 would be the 4th highest edge there. Projected 10.5-point win. We'll round that up over the Detroit Lions. And then the Eagles -4.5 over the New England Patriots. I think the model's got like a 7.9 win? Yeah, right there. 7.9-point win. So those are in order the 5 biggest edges according to the model in comparison with the betting market right now.
So like we said, we're using this as a tool. We're not just taking all of this at face value. There's a lot of different things and elements that go into this. Of those 5 games where you see you have the presumed edge, which one do you believe in the most?
Oh, our Green Bay. Because that's one of the teams that was one of the plays.
And we talked about that with the division earlier as well.
Exactly. So that's one of those that at least comes behind some of my thinking already. That Green Bay is undervalued, that the Bears are overvalued. That is one that immediately I saw it. The market, by the way, agrees. Like, we were up to 2.5 for this thing. We're down to 1.5. So we're starting to see that. Now that we're at 1.5, would be a massive shock if it flips, right? If Green Bay become ultimately a favorite. I don't think that would be the case. We'll see if that ends up happening. But I think Green Bay by far is the one that I was in most agreement with the model. The Chiefs were a close second, because I think at 6.5 there is value in that number. Did I project a 10.5-point win initially? No, but I do think that at the top of the list for me, the one that me and John Von model are simpatico on, is the Packers.
And also, and another element of this, because this is spread-based, is getting an idea of the distance between teams in general, which I think can also help for people that are out there doing those survivor contests, and you just have to pick one winner, and we see what the numbers have on paper and where money is going, but it can also kind of change your thinking about maybe which game you might choose in this spot. Are you doing a survivor contest?
No, I don't.
Decided?
No, I
still have time.
I still have time. So my thing is, I think for the Survivor, I know it kind of goes against the thought of Survivor. You want multiple entries. Mm-hmm. You know, not just one, because as Brent famously yelled at me the year that Phillip Rivers and the Indianapolis Colts lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars week 1 when they were like 8.5-point favorites, just going down.
And then how the rest
like
of that season turn out. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah,
killer.
Well, they went to the playoffs that year. They just lost, to the Buffalo Bills. But I want more than one entry. Right. So I'll be in some contests. I'll be in Last Man Standing out here in town. Obviously, we'll have the contest entry with Mitch in terms of the model and whatnot. But Survivor, I have yet to make a decision. You're in, right? I think I saw an Instagram post.
I have 3.
You have 3?
3.
See, that's the way to go, though.
Yes.
Like, you want multiple entries. So I don't know if I want to shell out to get the multiple entries or not. So there's still time.
For the way that this kind of shook out, though, and the larger presumed value, or the numbers that are even in line with the Texans, for example, and that number being 10, is there a game that you kind of see from a Survivor standpoint that might be the best option, or that your numbers support a lot?
I mean, so Baltimore was one that I had circled initially before I started doing this as like the best Survivor candidate at the start of the year. It's kind of one that I've come off a little bit. Not a ton, but like if you were to twist my arm and ask me now, that would be definitely one of them. I think Jacksonville against Indianapolis is going to be an intriguing option as well. I know that they're only 3.5-point favorites, but again, the model really likes them, and I think there is some expected growing pains for Anthony Richardson at the start of the year. So I think that would be one that really intrigues me. I'll tell you this. In terms of the projections, and I'm glad it's not a best bet, but I don't really vibe with Washington being a 7-point favorite over the Arizona Cardinals. So I know a lot of people might circle that one. I'm not really big on it. And if you want to get like really risky, I mean, it's a pretty solid edge in comparison with the market is, but Green Bay over Chicago? Want to get risky week one? Want to get frisky? Let's do it.
See, and it's a division game, and it like all the things that you don't want it to be, but it keeps staring at you.
Sure.
So probably not a lot of people are going to be on it, which can be beneficial because a lot of people get knocked out when they take these big favorites that don't end up working out.
I'll tell you this. I don't think there's, and you guys, so you've been looking at it too because you got the 3 entries. I don't think there's any one outside of Baltimore that you're really circling and being like, I'm in, this is it.
It's slim pickings out there. I think that as the season goes on, there are going to be some teams that are going to feel like a fade, right? And we're going to work that out probably pretty early. But week 1 is such a toss-up, and you never really know what you're going to get, as evidenced by the way my week 1 started last year. It was not ideal.
What happened?
I had the 49ers and the Broncos.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it didn't go well.
Soup's fun for me.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.